Hi there, this is Jeanette, and this is day 4 of my Halloween series for 2016. Today's card features stamps from both Mama Elephant and Lawn Fawn, and I wanted to create a sort of creepy forest scene. You always see these in the movies or on TV, where there's like a clearing in the woods, and then, there's a witch or something supernatural in the clearing. So I have my little witch here. She's kind of cute, maybe not creepy, and I've got the light of the moon going, so I thought this was kind of a fun scene. I'm going to be using Mama Elephant dies. This was originally under the name Femme Frames. That's what I bought them as. Now I think they come in another set, so I'm going to link the sets below this video on YouTube so you can find them. So I'm going to be using the rectangle with the stitched lines to cut out the base of my card, and this is on some Neenah cardstock. And then I'm going to cut the green cardstock with the same die, and then I'll take the landscape dies to create hills, and I'll cut it right from that rectangle. This way it's exactly the same width as my base, and it's a lot easier to sort of get it all adhered down. I'm going to be sponging a little bit of ink onto my grass. So I started with Twisted Citron. So I'm sponging that on the edges of my grass. And it's not really dark. It's not a big difference from the cardstock. So then I moved on to Shabby Shutters to give it just a little bit more depth. And I'm working on my craft mat from Ranger, which has seen better days, but still working. So now I'm going to take my card base, making sure it fits nicely, and sort of figuring out where I want to put the yellow. This is going to be sort of the light in the clearing, so I'm starting to put that light down with the yellow, and then I'm going to go over on top of it with different distress inks. So this is Tumbled Glass. I just went blank there for a minute. So this is Tumbled Glass, and I'm sponging it on the edges and moving it into where the yellow is. Now this is going to start off looking really not that great, but by the end you're going to see it's going to create a beautiful background. So I'm not really sponging anything on the bottom there because it's going to be covered up by the grass. I'm moving on now to Seedless Preserves. It's a beautiful purpley color. And I'm going over on top the Tumbled Glass, going a little bit into the yellow. So you can see in areas where it's just the Seedless Preserves, it's more of a vibrant sort of purpley color, and then when it's going over where the Tumbled Glass was, it's sort of darker. Now I'm going to darken it up even more. I'm going to be using some Chipped Sapphire. And again, I'm just putting that all over the colors. And it's starting now to all blend together, and you can kind of see where I'm going with this now. So where the yellow was, it's still lighter. There's still sort of like a glow, which is what I was going for. But it's nice and diffuse. Just making sure that everything will be covered by the grass before going to Black Soot. And I'm just going to use a tiny bit of that just on the edges, and that darkens up those edges just slightly more, and I think it gives a better finished product. And I just went over it again with the Chipped Sapphire. So I'm going to be choosing the images I'm using. I was pretty sure I was going to use the witch, but I wasn't sure what other ones I was going to use. I thought at first I'd put a sentiment, but then I realized there wasn't really going to be enough room, so I decided not to stamp the sentiment. The woods, or the trees rather, are from a Lawn Fawn set. So there's 2 of them, so I'll stamp out 2 of each. Once I had everything laid out that I wanted, I went ahead and stamped them using my MISTI. And I had to stamp those trees a second time. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just placing them down. I made sure they were dry before I placed them down. Then I'll just ink them up with my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink, and I stamp them 2 times to get a very nice crisp impression. I'm going to quickly color up one of the trees for you. I'm just using some warm toned grays here and doing a very, very quick coloration. I'm only going to show you this first tree because the other trees were colored in the exact same way. And you can see I'm really going quickly. I'm not being too careful with it. I just want to add a little bit of color along some of the edges just to give them some dimension. I'll just blend those out. I'm going to move to the witch. I'm going to do her face. And again, these are such small images that it doesn't take a lot of time to color them up, and you don't necessarily need as many markers as what I'm using. You could really get away with coloring them just with one marker if you wanted to. I'm going to go and work on her hair. I just used 2 colors there for her hair, so that lighter yellow, and then I just added a little bit of shadow with the darker yellow. I'm going to put some green stripes on her sleeves and on her legs. And also on the band of her hat. So you can see this is really quick, and I'm not using a whole lot of different markers for this. For the cat, I'm going to be using some cool grays, just so that the cat doesn't match the trees, if you know what I mean. I used warm grays for the trees. I'm using cool grays for the cat, just to make a little bit of difference there. I'm going to add some green to the brim of the hat. A little pink nose. Instead of coloring in the stars and the buckles, I decided just to use my gold Wink of Stella pen. Colored those in. Now I'm just taking the coordinating dies and I am carefully putting them over the images, lining them up, and then adding some post-it tape to hold the die in place for when it's running through the Big Shot. Decided to put the dies on the trees on the top, and I will run that through. So I kind of try to make as few passes with the Big Shot as possible. I get as many dies onto that paper as I can. And now I'll just have to cut out the 2 remaining trees. So just placing all those cut images over on my workspace. I'm going to start adhering the grass down. I'm going to match them up together first and then put them on the card base. Just worked a little easier that way. I'm going to figure out where I want those elements and then just where I wanted the trees. So I knew I wanted the top of the double tree, and then I only wanted like a partial part of the other 2 trees. So once I was sort of happy with how everything was looking, I'm taking my little Xyron machine here, and I'll use that to adhere my little images here. Works really well. I find it just adds a thin layer of adhesive behind them. So I'll get my witch and my cat lined up on the card where I want them, and I'll leave the bat for later on. I'm going to use some Zig glue in the pen form. This is blue, but it dries clear. I'm going to get the first 2 sets of trees glued down. To glue down that side there, it wasn't well adhered. So I'm making sure that the tops of those trees are still visible. Just added a block on top of it, just something heavy to make sure that they laid flat while they were drying. And now I can add the other 2 trees. Just making sure exactly how I want it before I put the glue on. Line that up. I put the block on again for it to dry. Then I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and just clip off the excess. I'm going to adhere this piece of vellum. This was also cut with one of the dies that comes in that Mama Elephant set, so it'll be linked for you. So I cut it out of vellum, and then I'll put that on top of the black card base, and that just gives another level of interest without making the card look too fussy. I decided I needed a moon. I hadn't originally stamped it out, and I decided I needed that moon, so I just stamped it. I'm going to color it, or color it in, just with that Wink of Stella. It adds so much glitter and shine. I made sure it was dry, and then I adhered it. So there is a time delay there. I did let it dry first. I had to move the bat and then put the moon where the bat was. Then I had to try to remember or figure out where I wanted the bat. I moved him a few times before I was happy. And my card is completed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying my Halloween series. A full list of all the supplies I used with their links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog. Thanks for watching.